Welcome to another DFO Fantasy Show. It is Thursday, December 18th. Christmas is rapidly approaching. I'm your host, Brock Seguin, managing fantasy editor at dailyfaceoff.com. Today, we've got fantasy hockey news and notes, Brock's lock of the day, and then we've got Dylan Berthiaume joining us in the second half of the show to go over the best weekend streaming options for week 11 of the fantasy hockey season. So, jam-packed show. Let's dive right in with the news and notes. Got Brandon Montour. He suffered an undisclosed injury versus the Avalanche on Tuesday, was not on the ice for Wednesday's practice, and is not expected to play Thursday in Calgary. So a tough loss there for the Seattle Kraken, who have been up against it with injuries this season. Tough day to be named Brandon because Brandon Hagel is day-to-day with an upper body injury. He was hurt on Tuesday. He also did not practice on Wednesday and is questionable to play Thursday. It does seem like he is not going to be available, but hasn't officially been ruled out as of now. But good news for the Lightning. Both Andrei Vasilevskiy and Ryan McDonagh were on the ice for Wednesday's session. And according to head coach John Cooper, both are trending in the right direction to play on Thursday. So obviously two massive returns there for the Lightning. Now to Minnesota, where Jonas Brodin was placed on IR on Wednesday. Mostly just a numbers game here. They just needed a roster spot. It apparently will not affect his timeline, but we don't really know what that timeline is. They've yet to provide much of a timetable for his return beyond calling him day to day. But he's already missed 3 games, so he's kind of past the day-to-day point by now. So yeah, just no real idea when Brodin is going to be back. They're calling him day-to-day, so it doesn't sound like he's going to be out long-term, but again, no real timetable there. And then a couple quick updates out of Buffalo. Michael Kesselring is expected to return to the Sabres lineup on Thursday, but Jason Zucker has been ruled out until after the Christmas break. And to Ottawa, Thomas Chabot was a full participant in Wednesday's practice, but is not expected to play Thursday. So I would look for him to return in probably one of their back-to-back games over the weekend on Saturday and Sunday. Also, they had Jake Sanderson and Linus Ullmark leave practice early yesterday, but they said there's no worries there. But I would just keep an eye on them just to be safe. So that's going to do it for the news and notes. Now let's get to Brock's lock of the day. This segment is a presentation of Betway. Join the action and download the Betway app. Create an account today and enjoy our sign-up bonus, 18 plus, and please play responsibly. So we won again last night, but it was brought to my attention in the comment section on YouTube that I was actually looking at Noah Hanifin blocked shots at plus 100. I'm not sure how that happened. The actual over-under for 1.5 shots on goal was minus 165 instead of plus 100, significantly worse odds. But for transparency, I have included the proper line in our tracker. Luckily, at minus 165, he finished with 3 shots on goal, and the bet hit regardless, bringing us to 19-13 on the season. We are up 3.9 units and 9.9% ROI. So, yeah, my mistake there won't happen again. Either way, he hit the number we were looking for. But if you were looking for Noah Hanifin over 1.5 shots at plus 100 and couldn't find it, that would be why. So let's get into tonight's lock of the day. As always, the Brock's Lock of the Day is powered by our friends at 5v5 Hockey. They've got a great prop model over there that you can get free access to for 1 week, a 7-day free trial. So head over to 5v5 Hockey today and sign up. Some really nice ones up top here, like Tarasenko, Thompson, Konechny. I really like all of those plays, but they pay out like minus 190, minus 180. So not great odds there. Good chance to hit if you want to maybe put a couple of them together. But I'm going back to the well here. I'm going to Rasmus Andersson again. Until he cools down, I'm just going to keep betting Rasmus Andersson over 2.5 shots on goal. Seattle isn't necessarily the best matchup, but they do give up the 13th most shot attempts per game. And that's enough for me the way Andersson is firing right now. After winning for us on Tuesday, he has now hit this mark in 6 straight games while averaging 4.5 shots on goal and 9 shot attempts per game. So I said it the other day, and now let's just be clear. This says total shots on goal. I'm looking at the right one today. If he keeps throwing 9 shot attempts towards the net per game, I like his chances yet again to get us 3+ shots on goal. So give me Rasmus Andersson over 2.5 shots on goal plus 110 yet again. Hopefully he can take us back to the promised land. So that's Brock's lock of the day. Now let's welcome in our friend, Dylan Berthiaume. We'll go over the best weekend streaming targets for week 11 of the fantasy hockey season. Merry Christmas, D. How's it going, bud?
Doing good, brother. Always a good day when Brock's lock of the day hits. Even at minus 165, we'll take it, eh?
Yeah, worst odds of the season so far. I was like, man, this plus 100 feels a little too good to be true. And I guess it was. So we got weekend streaming options. So we got 5 teams, if we could pull up the strength of schedule here with the Friday, Sunday schedule. It's a very busy weekend in the NHL. 5 games on Friday, 13 games on Saturday, and then a 9-game Sunday. So Dylan's going to hook us up with the best streaming targets for the Friday, Sunday schedule. We've got the Colorado Avalanche, the Dallas Stars, the New Jersey Devils, the Utah Mammoth, and the Winnipeg Jets are those 5 teams that we're going to look at. And then at the end, we're going to take a look at some of the goalies that could possibly go on Sunday that you can stream to try to save your matchups. Overall, there are a total of 13 teams with the Saturday, Sunday back-to-back. So there are a ton of choices. We'll sift through the ones that are readily available on the waiver wire and try to talk about our favorites. But let's start with the best streaming targets this weekend, Dylan. Let's start with the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, as you said, pretty busy weekend schedule. League, trying to squeeze in as many games as possible, gearing up for that holiday break next week. But yeah, a lot of them are on that back-to-back as opposed to the Friday, Sunday. So to me, this weekend slate for, as far as the streaming is concerned for the Friday, Sunday, kind of a tale of 2 formats. I think if you're in shallower leagues and you're used to finding guys in kind of the 35 to 50% ownership range, then you'll be pretty happy with what's out there. But in more standard or deeper formats, we're kind of scraping the bottom of the bill. And we'll go through it and you can see what I mean here. But the Avalanche hosting the Jets on Friday before traveling to Minnesota on Sunday. Brock Nelson, 50% owned. Gabe Landeskog, left wing, right wing eligible, 38% owned. Both skating together on the second line and for his power play unit out in Colorado. Nelson's got 4 goals in his last 5. Landeskog a little cooler of late, but has been firing the puck on net a ton. He's averaging over 3.5 shots per game in his last 6 contests. So expect him to heat up again sooner than later if that continues. But yeah, kind of the theme of the weekend here. Not a whole lot to love on the wire outside of those top 2 if these lines hold up. Avs are leaning pretty heavily on their top 6 right now, so just not a lot of opportunity left for their bottom 6. But I think if you're desperate, Ross Colton, center left wing eligible, 10% owned, and Gavin Brindley, center right wing, 1% owned. Worthy of a flyer this weekend, especially as we go through and you see some of the other names that have made the list. Both third line and second power play unit, Colton, especially in banger leagues. He's up to 81 hits on this season. But anyone else I'm missing here, Brock, that you might want to take a roll of the dice on?
No, I just wanted to add a little bit on Gavin Brindley. He has seen some time on that top line with Nathan McKinnon a couple games ago. They moved him up and moved Martin Necas down. And then oddly enough, the other night, the Avs Twitter account posted that Brindley was going to be on the top line again. It didn't end up being the case. It ended up being Necas, so that was an error on the graphics department there. But he is kind of in consideration. So, like, obviously, if he does get that bump up there and you see that coming in on Friday, he would be a premier pickup playing in that top line this weekend. So he's somebody to keep an eye on, maybe a little bit closer, monitor the line combinations, because obviously, like, the difference between playing with McKinnon and playing with Ross Colton is massive. And he has seen some time up there, and he's played fairly well as of late. So somebody to certainly monitor. Then, as always, their power play unit starting to heat up a little bit. Gabe Landeskog, Brock Nelson, obviously both on that top unit right now. Premier pickups. And, Nelson's just been scorching hot. It's nice to see him get going here after a slow start. And yeah, if they're available in your leagues, I love both of those pickups. Are you ready to move on to the Dallas Stars?
Yeah, let's get into it. The Stars are in Anaheim on Friday before hosting the Maple Leafs on Sunday. So pretty nice schedule here for the Stars. Again, it's that same story. Matt Duchene, if he's available at 51% owned, that's great. Otherwise, the only name I'm really looking at here is Jamie Benn. He's got the triple position eligibility right now, 17% owned. Was off to a nice start to his campaign before going pointless in his last 4. He's still got 9 points in 15 games this season, and the usage right now, too good to ignore, especially given the other options on this slate. Second power play unit, but is skating alongside Jason Robertson and Rupe Hintz at 5v5. The 3 of them averaging pretty respectable 28 scoring chances, 13 high danger chances per 60 at 5v5. Their defensive numbers are also really good, which I think just helps them stick together this weekend, makes it less likely that they get broken up over this 2-game slate. I think a lack of shot volume limits the upside here on Benn, but I still love taking a chance on him this weekend, so long as he holds on to that spot on line 1. But for me, that's really it in Dallas, though. I mean, they've been shaking up that second, third line a lot lately, but if this holds, not a whole lot to love just based on what's available out there. But anything you think I might be overthinking or overlooking here, Brock?
No, I think Benn, I wrote up the stars at the start of the week too, and I think Benn's really the only option outside of Duchesne. I think it would be nice if we could see him start to play 15, 16 minutes a little bit more consistently instead of 13, 14, certainly limits his upside. But I mean, Rupe Hintz and Jason Robertson are playing tremendous, and riding those coattails could be enough. You're only looking for 2 games out of him. He's certainly capable of banging home a couple of points this weekend. He's had a pretty decent start since returning there in mid-November. Let's get to the New Jersey Devils, who have just been absolutely tortured by injuries.
Yeah, not great. They're in Utah on Friday, hosting the Sabres Sunday, so decent matchup spread there. Again, we'll look in shallower leagues first. Dawson Mercer, center right wing, 48% owned. He's actually been hitting the wire in a lot of leagues of late, so I think even in kind of more standard 12-team leagues, he's getting there a lot right now. He's got just a single point in his last 8 games, so if that's the case, he quite clearly becomes one of the top targets this weekend, even with this cold streak of late. I'm still really interested in him so long as he's holding down a spot next to Hischier and Bratt on line 1. But then we're going to get to the bottom of the barrel right away again. We're going to Connor Brown, right wing eligible, 1% owned. He's being leaned on really heavily of late. All the injuries that the Devils are going through, as you alluded to, Brock, leads to him averaging over 18.5 minutes a night in his last 3 games, piling up 8 shots on goal and a pair of goals in that stretch. Should continue to see plenty of run this weekend on New Jersey's second line and power play unit. So Connor Brown, actually an option in the big 2025. I think you could even take a shot on power play specialist Stefan Noesen, left wing, right wing, 1% owned. He's got just 5 points on the season. It's not pretty, but he's on that first power play unit right now. He's been very productive in that spot in years past, so wouldn't be surprised to see him find his way onto the score sheet this weekend. And again, that's about it for me out of New Jersey. I think you can maybe take a punt on a guy like Cody Glass, who's in a bit of a similar situation to Connor Brown. The ice time hasn't been as steady, but what are your thoughts, Brock? Any other deep league Devil targets you're taking a shot on here?
No, Cody Glass was probably the one I was going to mention. 4 points in his last 5 games. Nothing crazy to write home about, but is averaging 2.8 shots on goal, 3.4 shot attempts, 1.2 hits during that time. So a bit of a category stuffer, I guess. You could say he's been okay. Again, if you're kind of desperate to stream the Devils, I think my biggest issue is just the Devils as a whole right now. The offense is just not there. They're not, they're still winning hockey games, and occasionally, like a big win against Vegas last night. But again, it was 2-1 in a shootout. This team is not scoring enough goals right now, and I think that I would certainly be looking to the Colorado Avalanche, Dallas Stars, and possibly even Utah and Winnipeg first, just because the offense is just not there in New Jersey. Let's get to Utah.
Yeah, the Mammoth, couple of home games this weekend, hosting the Devils on Friday before the Jets come to town on Sunday. Lawson Krause, left wing, right wing eligible, 16% owned. I really like him as a target this weekend, especially in banger leagues. Those are probably the leagues that he's already snatched up in, but even in more standard formats, I think he's in a nice spot right now alongside Barrett Hayton and Dylan Gunther online too. Also seen some time on the second power play unit. Banger league specific, again, I think Jack McBain, if he's out there, certainly worth an ad just to help you fill some categories this weekend. And then super deep leagues, I think you can take a flyer on Barrett Hayton and Daniil Boot. Both of these two are far from a sure thing. Unfortunately, it's kind of the trend this weekend. Like you said, the Cooley injury here really just hurting the depth options out in Utah. There's not a whole lot to love outside of that top line, but I do think there's a chance that these guys, can continue to see a lot of ice time and find their way onto the score sheet. But yeah, not a lot of slam dunks out there this weekend.
Yeah, Daniil Boot is somebody that I really like his game. It seems like he's constantly generating high danger chances, but moving down to the third line, I think makes him a little bit trickier to stream. That Utah third line plays a little bit more than your average third line. They do have pretty good underlying metrics. I think Michael Carcone's got enough offensive jam as well. You could probably consider him. In his last 13 games, he has piled up 7 points. The shot volume and the hit volume is really strong for him. 2.2 shots on goal, 4.4 shot attempts, 1.9 hits per game during that stretch. So in banger leagues, I think that's mostly what you're looking at here from the Utah Mammoth is in those extended formats. Lawson Krause, Jack McBain, Michael Carcone are probably your go-to. Daniil Boot would, in those standard formats, has an outside chance of putting up some points this weekend, but it's just so tough when he's only playing like 13, 11 minutes a night, somewhere around there. So at that point, I think you might as well just go with Jamie Benn. Let's close out the weekend streaming targets with the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, finally, we got another half decent option here to add to Jamie Benn that's out there in over 75% of leagues. The Jets are in Colorado on Friday, in Utah on Sunday. Not great, but Cole Perfetti, given out the other options that are available, immediately puts his name near the top of this list. Center, left wing, right wing eligible, 22% owned. Perfetti limited to a spot on line 2 at 5v5, but is skating alongside the big guns on the top power play unit for the Jets. He's got 3 assists and 9 shots on goal in his last 5 games, while chipping in with at least 1 hit in all 5 of those contests. So not that easiest matchup spread, as we said, but I still really like the chances of him finding the score sheet this weekend, given the other names that we've talked about. I think, like I said, I think he's one of the best options to go after in standard formats. Unfortunately, again, it's hard to get excited about much else in Winnipeg this weekend. The other 2 names that would usually come to mind first are Nino Niederreiter and Vladislav Nemesnikov, Perfetti's line mates at 5v5, but both absolutely ice cold coming into the weekend, both pointless in their last 9 games. So I think I'm shying away from any Jet not named Perfetti this weekend. But before we wrap up, Brock, and move on to the tendies, anyone else I might be overlooking in Winnipeg?
No, Perfetti obviously hasn't had the best season, but he is just shooting 6%, right? Like on ice shooting percentage is down below 10 as well. It's been double digits his whole career. So been a little bit unfortunate. This is just a team that's hard to stream because they've just lacked secondary scoring all season. But Perfetti on that top power play unit is the most likely by far to chip in a couple points this week and maybe starts get some bounces going his way. Because like I said, shooting just 6.1% coming into this season. He's somebody that averaged 12% for his career. So literally half of his career shooting percentage. Things should get a little bit better for him. Let's go back to the strength of schedule here. We, like I said, have a boatload of teams with the back-to-backs. I'm going to roll through all of them. We'll talk about some of the best goalie options. But we will start with Boston, who are in, they will host Ottawa on Sunday. That will presumably be Jonas Korpisalo who gets that start. He's just 3% rostered right now. The Senators haven't been great. They're not terrible either. And Korpisalo is obviously a little bit difficult to trust, but it is his former team. I don't hate Korpisalo this weekend. The Bruins have definitely surprised some people this year. So he'll be out there. But again, with so many options, there's probably somebody better out there than Jonas Korpisalo. Then we've got the Buffalo Sabres. They're in New Jersey on Sunday. It's really difficult to tell who's going to start for this team at any given moment. It does sound like Alex Lyon gets the start on Thursday, which presumably would lead to UPL starting on Saturday and then maybe Lyon again on Sunday. I talked about how the Devils are really struggling to score right now. I think this is probably one of the premier streams of the weekend. I feel probably a little bit better about Lyon, but if it is UPL, Lyon's at 9%, UPL's at 18%. I think both are going to be okay options for you this weekend. Then you've got the Red Wings who host the Capitals on Sunday with Cam Talbot starting yesterday. I would expect John Gibson in Washington on Sunday and then Talbot at home. Gibson on Saturday, Talbot at home on Sunday. Don't like the matchup here with the Capitals. I also don't like the way that Talbot's been playing. He would be towards the bottom of my list right now. Calvin Pickard probably going to face the Golden Knights on Sunday. Terrible matchup. He has not played well this year. Not that interested. You're not going to be able to stream the Wild goalie. You probably don't want to anyway with the Avs in town. So then you got to look to Montreal, who will be in Pittsburgh on Sunday. Again, unclear who will get the start, but both Jakub Dobish, 26% rostered, Jacob Fowler at 20% rostered. Could be on the wire for you. Don't mind that stream either way. I think they'll both be okay options, similar to the Lion or UPL pickup. I think they're both okay. Then you got Nashville. It'll be Justice and Noonan, I would imagine, on Sunday versus the Rangers. The Rangers can't score. The Predators are playing pretty well. Noonan is, worth considering, but I want, at 1% roster, he's widely available. He just has not played that well. I think he's obviously risky even with a good matchup. Then you've got the Rangers. This might be the stream of the weekend. Jonathan Quick has been spectacular this year, 13% rostered, but widely available. Like I said, I like Nashville. I think Nashville's played pretty well this year, but Jonathan Quick, I think, is going to be the number one stream of the weekend at 13% rostered for those Rangers who, again, on the road, they can actually score on the road, so they might be able to provide him with a little bit of goal support. Levi Merrilina potentially starting Sunday in Boston. He's 2% rostered right now. It's been okay. The Bruins, offense is a little bit wishy-washy, so I don't mind looking to Levi Merrilina at 2% rostered. Then you've got the Pittsburgh Penguins who will host the Canadiens on Sunday, potentially an Artur Silovs start there. He's 11% rostered. I imagine Silovs starts Thursday. Then you've got Stuart Skinner potentially on Saturday, and then back to Silovs on Sunday. So he's played fairly well as of late, and 11% rostered with not too bad of a matchup with the Canadiens in town. I think Silovs is probably inside the top 5. The Maple Leafs will in Dallas on Sunday. Potentially Dennis Hildeby. I would imagine maybe Hildeby starts Thursday. Wool starts Saturday. Hildeby back on Sunday. Again, just projecting here, but that is certainly the way I would think things play out. I think Hildeby's obviously played extremely well this year. Is definitely outperformed the other goalies in Toronto. Not the best matchup in Dallas, but I think that you could certainly consider Hildeby there, but will not be a favorite on the road in Dallas. And you've got Vegas is in Edmonton. I think it's a really difficult matchup. Whether that is Carter Hart or not, I don't think that Akira Schmid or Hart are really going to be great streams in Edmonton. That team seems to be finding their way a little bit. And then probably my top or second favorite of the weekend is going to be Charlie Lindgren in Detroit on Sunday. The Red Wings have played very well as of late, but the Capitals are a very good defensive team. They're a very structured team. Charlie Lindgren's really starting to find his game. So I think Lindgren, I don't know if they'll be favorites in Detroit on Sunday, but they'll be close to a coin flip there, I would think. And Lindgren's played a lot better as of late. So I would say that Charlie Lindgren, Jonathan Quick are my two favorites heading into the weekend, but you're going to have a ton of options at your disposal. D, any of the ones that I outlined or anybody else that you think looks like a pretty good stream heading into this weekend?
I'm with you for the most part. I think a big thing here is just avoid going up against the teams that are playing the Friday, Sunday if you can, simply because it's much better if you're on a back-to-back, to face another team that's doing the exact same. So there's just so many of those options this weekend. I'm going to shy away from those few matchups where the team is on the back-to-back but playing the team that was off Saturday. So yeah, I'm with you. I think Lindgren's really nice in Detroit, excuse me. And then Quick in Nashville. I think that makes a ton of sense. Like you said, the Preds have been pretty hot lately, but a lot of that heater has just come down to the play of UC Saros, who's been excellent of late. So with him presumably out of the cage on Sunday, I love taking the shot against the Noonan in Nashville. I think that'll probably be one of the biggest tilts in the money line that we see out of all these matchups as well.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Makes a lot of sense. Very busy weekend in the NHL. Hopefully you pick up the right streams. Hopefully we can help push you over the edge here in week 11. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Before we go, just want to provide some updates on how everything is going to look next week with it being Christmas. So there will be a show on Monday. I will do my regular show as I always do. It's going to be a little weird because the schedule is obviously bizarre with no games Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Waiver Wire Wednesday will be moved up to Tuesday next week. So we're going to have two shows next week. Monday, the regular week preview. Tuesday will be the Waiver Wire show. So there will be no Dylan Berthiaume next week. So we wish him a very Merry Christmas, and we will see him back here in the new year. So thank you so much for joining me, D, and we'll see you back here in 2026.
Thanks, bud. Take care.
Thanks for watching this video. If you want more great fantasy hockey and betting content from myself, Carter Hutton, Matthew Barnaby, and the rest of the DFO analysts, make sure you subscribe to the DFO Fantasy and Betting YouTube channel today and never miss a minute.